Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week on the program, we hear some more from the Minister of Foreign Affairs on evacuation of Nigerians abroad. Plus, speaking of those in the diaspora, did you know we have Nigerians trailblazing in Jamaica? We'll hear more from the Nigerian High Commissioner to the country on their achievements and how they're coping with the coronavirus pandemic. That's Diplomatic Channel in a wrap. Now, as usual, let's check in on other discussions in diplomatic circles, and we'll be right back.
SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule carrying NASA astronauts Bob Benjing and Dale Harley docked with the International Space Station on Sunday, marking the first U.S. space capsule to do so with a crew since 2011. 19 hours earlier, the launch from Florida by SpaceX, the private rocket company by billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, marked the first time that commercially developed space vehicle owned and operated by a private entity rather than NASA have carried Americans into orbit. China's decision on the national security for Hong Kong will bring more opportunities to the special administrative region of Hong Kong instead of constraints, while creating a conducive business environment for financial institutions as it thwarts instability. The comment was made by host with CGTN reporter Code.
The central government wants to expand Hong Kong, not constrain it, especially as core of the Greater Bay Area Development Plan to build a world-class mega-region. Accordingly, the central government will defer to Hong Kong as much as possible and as long as possible. But there are 3 red lines that cannot be crossed. Movement toward Hong Kong independence, using Hong Kong to undermine the mainland's party-led political system, and unending chaos such that Hong Kong's economic viability would be threatened. As far as threats that financial institutions will depart Hong Kong, as some have suggested, I think not.
Protest against the killing of an armed African-American, George Floyd, has taken an international dimension as a large group of protesters gathered outside the American Embassy on the south bank of London's River Thames on Sunday. Thousands more demonstrators broke ongoing lockdown measures and gathered near the iconic Trafalgar Square before marching down Whitehall, making stops near the Prime Minister's office at 10 Downing Street and the House of Commons to express outrage at ongoing race issues in the United States.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
Welcome back. More Nigerians caught by the coronavirus pandemic outside the country are indicating willingness to return to Nigeria. On Saturday, 268 Nigerians returned to the country from China. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, says all the returnees will be put on the 14-day quarantine period stipulated by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NCDC. This comes days after the minister announced that the ministry is developing new guidelines for others willing to be evacuated. He had more to say on the evacuations during the Presidential Task Force briefing last week.
As you know, up to now, everybody that's coming into the country has to be quarantined for 14 days. These evacuees have had to be quarantined for 14 days at a hotel designated by government, and all the medical requirements would have been in place in respect of those hotels, undertaken by the medical authorities here. Now there's going to be a change to that procedure and that protocol, and that is going to affect the timing of any further evacuation we're going to undertake.
And now to our feature this week. Nigeria and Jamaica have had 50 years of diplomatic relations established April 29, 1970. There's been no grand celebration of the diplomatic feat because there is a global pandemic going on, but both countries have said plans are on the way to mark the achievement. You may know Jamaica for the music and culture, but there is still a lot more to learn about the people and about Nigerians living there and how they're coping with the global pandemic. Ambassador Janet Olisa is the Nigerian High Commissioner to Jamaica, Belize, and is also ambassador to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, a role she took on in August 2017. She's a career diplomat and has been with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs since 1992. She joins us now on Diplomatic Channel. High Commissioner Janet Olisa, thank you for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thanks, Amarachi, for having me.
Nigeria and Jamaica share a lot of similarities in cultures and the zest for life as well as enterprise. You've been in that position of High Commissioner for about 2 years now. Was there a culture shock for you resuming your duties in Jamaica?
I wouldn't say there was a cultural shock, but I was surprised that I didn't have a cultural shock in the sense that we are so much alike. The DNA cannot lie. When our ancestors were taken all the way to the Caribbean, and quite a number of them ended up in Jamaica. And to be sincere, when you look at some Jamaicans, you think you're looking at Nigerians. And I've had the privilege to embarrass one or two to say, oh, where are you from in Nigeria? And they go, oh, I've never been to the continent. How much more Nigeria? So it was more of a shock of not seeing a cultural shock, but kind of the similarities. And the topography is actually very similar. There are some areas you go to, you think you are somewhere in the southwest or somewhere in the south of Nigeria. The hilly part, and Jamaica is very hilly, so you look at it and it reminds you of home.
50 years of diplomatic relations is huge, and I know both countries have had to work together severally on international levels. How much of an impact have both countries had on each other?
Nigeria, Jamaica, 50 years. It's been very fruitful. I do recall that even as a young officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we had Technical Aid Corps volunteers who were sent to Jamaica to assist in the medical and the educational sector. Today, Jamaica can pride itself as one of the top in the Caribbean medically, and they have grown very much in the medical field, so in the educational sector. We have Nigerians who have nationalized now, so they have dual citizenship, who went there as TAC volunteers, who are dean of faculty, who are heads of departments or units in the top hospitals and universities. The University of the West Indies, for example, we have Professor Wari Boko, who is the Dean of Humanities, and he went there originally as a TAC volunteer, spent the mandatory years, they retained him, and he grew there. Jamaica is a place where there is no discrimination as to where you are from. What's important is that do they need your skill? And if they do need your skill, you are taken on, and that was how quite a number of Nigerians ended up working. I will proudly, and I will tell you that I am one of the ambassadors that I don't have a problem in Jamaica because the Nigerians there are professionals, top-notch. I rather go to them when I have problems for them to assist me. So we've done quite a lot there. Right now we have TAC volunteers back again on the island, helping them on the tourism aspect in terms of training people on tie and dye, metal work, and some other aspects. All this, as you know, Jamaica is a tourist attraction for quite a number of Western countries. So how do we bring typical made in Jamaica artwork, because Jamaicans are very artistic, very creative, but how do we narrow it back to their roots and not just a Western influence? And this is what we are bringing in. Trade-wise, it's what we are working on. We are working to see how we'll have more on trade. But I do know that a Nigerian company about 2 years ago bought a Jamaican company for quite a huge amount of money, and they are about, I think by the end of the year they'll be adding to, let's say, 300 million Jamaican dollars back into the economy. And so it's been that way. Culturally, we are so much alike. The dance, for example, the way we dance and the way we drum. And Nigerians quite a number of times go to Jamaica, especially Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, as a wedding destination or birthday. So we have a lot in common. And they come over here, they want to experience their heritage, they want to experience their roots. So they come down, they go to Badagry, to trace the way that it all started. And it may interest you to know that when our ancestors got down to Jamaica, especially to an area called Westmoreland, they saw a very, very unique part that reminded them of Abeokuta. And they named it Abeokuta. Until today, it's named Abeokuta. There's a famous high school that has produced prime ministers, and is named by the Baptist missionary, Calabar High School. And I recall in 2012, the then governor of the state invited the vice principal and a few students. They came down to Nigeria, went to Calabar to see that beautiful place that their school is named after. And I can tell you, it's one of the schools that everyone, is a boys' school that everyone wants to go to.
Now, fortunately, the world is dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, and that means celebrating this milestone in relations will have to be rescheduled. How is the Nigerian community in Jamaica coping with the pandemic?
Well, first and foremost, the Nigerian community, like I said earlier, we have quite a number of those in the medical field, with our doctors, nurses, so they are very much embedded into the whole process of making sure that people who are affected are being treated, and also the testing facilities. So they are all involved in that way. And for the community itself, they are making sure that they look out for each other. I know that we did send out a letter to the community heads. We have 3 main community heads: the Nigerian Association, which is the main one, as the Association of Nigerians in Jamaica, and then we have the Indigbos, the Igbo community, and of course we have a small group called the Committee of Friends. So we reached out to them, informed them of the federal government's directive that anyone who wants to, come home are free. And for them to make their intentions known. But as of today, I haven't received any requests as such. Rather, what the community has done was to say, if there's anybody who really wants to go home and cannot afford that, they're willing to come together to assist the person. But as they are comfortable where they are, their jobs are secured. So far, so good. They've all been each other's keeper.
You may want to let us know how many Nigerians there are in Jamaica and what businesses they're mostly into.
Well, I have a few thousands of. I cannot tell you exactly how many they are, because one thing, we're still trying to get them to register. But so far, what I have on my register at the moment, I have. With their children, I have over 8,000 with children, but I know there are more than that.
I remember an interview you did about 2 years ago where you talked about the concerns of the business community in transportation between Nigeria and Jamaica. Has that improved?
Very few are into business, but most of them are professional architects, lawyers, and we have a new breed of Nigerians born in Jamaica from Nigerian parents or half parents that were born and grew up there. So they are also doing very well. Again, they are all professionals in their own field. We have a few of them who are in the service sector. Like I said, tourism is a big thing in Jamaica, and so we have them in the telecommunication, and so we can go on. But what I can just proudly say that Nigerians in Jamaica are very comfortable, they are professionals, and they are well respected. I do recall when I presented my letter of credence to the Governor General, one of the things he said to me was to thank the Nigerians, not just the Nigerian government, but to thank the Nigerians for the contribution to his country. That's how well respected they are.
Our interview with High Commissioner Janet Olise continues after the break. Speaking of close ties, High Commissioner, the Nigeria-Jamaica Bilateral Commission has only met 4 times in this 50 years. For a country that shares so many years of diplomatic ties, why has there been such few cooperation in this regard?
I don't think it's how many times we meet, is how productive each one has been. Because in the first instant, we've been able, the few times we've met, we've been able to capitalize on those. We've deemed it fit to have the next one, and Nigeria is going to be hosting the next Joint Commission. We're going to bring in new aspects into it because we've done a lot of technical cooperation in the past, but now we're looking at other areas. Yes, we want to strengthen the bilateral air service agreement, but we also want to look at ways that both of us can benefit. They are very good in athletics, and we want to capitalize on that to see how we can benefit. Tourism is another area which they are good. And from our own end, we also would like to trade more. It's a small island, but it's not small in the sense of its capability. Jamaica is like the big brother of the Caribbean. So whatever you're getting into Jamaica, you are literally getting it into the other part of the Caribbean region. So getting our trade into Jamaica is a good stop for us. On their own end, they also are interested in other areas of cooperation. Agriculture is one that we are looking at. Banking is another aspect. And we just think that we need to be more, because it's very expensive when you move from country to country for the Joint Commission. You must be able to show your government that the last meeting was productive, this was what you were able to achieve. And then we can easily talk about the next one and to say what exactly we are going forward with.
What more would you say can be done to improve ties between both countries?
I think information is the main key. I recall when I arrived in Jamaica, it was one of the major things, because when people see me dressed in African prints and dressed with my hair, oh, African lady, and I go, yes, but I am Nigerian. It took a while for some of them to understand the difference, to find out that there are many countries in the continent, and I can tell you I had to go do a lot of talks on TV, radio, for them, the younger generations come. Of course, the older generations, they understand, but the younger generations did not. And the same thing, sometimes when I talk to Nigerians think that you can just drive from Jamaica and you're in the US, forgetting that there is this, it's an island and there's water that's, an ocean separating them. So again, people think that Jamaica is just reggae music, Rastafari, and that's it. Nobody sees the other aspects of it. Just the same way when they look at, I think what has helped Nigeria in Jamaica is Nollywood. Nollywood has helped a lot in the sense that even though they haven't been to the continent, not to talk about Nigeria, but they're able to follow Nollywood movies and ask questions. So when I meet young Jamaicans, they ask me questions that I kind of, have you been? They say, no, we've watched Nollywood. And you wouldn't believe the kind of movies, the one that took place long time. Blood Sister, I'm like, oh, Blood Sister, that was many years ago. But those are the kind of ones they've gotten access to easily, the new ones. So one of the things I've done is to, in 2018, I partnered with the Nigerian Film and Censors Board, Mr. Thomas, and he came down to Jamaica with a group of actors, producers, and we had a very good showing of Nigerian movies. And I believe that was the year that Merry Men came out, the first Merry Men, and we showcased quite a number of Nollywood movies. And that information, because you can talk to people, but people want to feel, not just to talk. So since they're unable to come down at the moment, to watch the movie has been a way for me to educate them more about Nigeria. So I really must give kudos to Nollywood for the easy access we are able to use their platform to portray. And of course, we had the CEO of Film One, who also Moses, who came down, and I was so proud and privileged to have them in Jamaica, despite how expensive and far it was. So we are hoping that this year we'll have a repeat. When exactly, I don't know yet, but already I have a yes from the DG of the Film and Video Censors Board. He has agreed to come again and for us to celebrate. But we are hoping that we can do more in terms of trade. Trade is key.
Now, I have to ask, for the foodies at home, since there are similarities between the two countries, is the famous jollof rice the same in Jamaica?
There is jollof rice, but jollof rice is prepared by Nigerians. There's a couple of Nigerian caterers right there on the island. But what you find mostly is rice and peas, which is rice and beans. Just like we do it, you cook the rice and the beans together. That is what is famous in Jamaica. But if we talk about similarities, plantain is a very popular meal. They do it differently. Apart from frying it and boiling it, they also use it for the chips. Now, cassava, they grow cassava, although not in large quantity as we do, but the preparation of cassava is way different. They call their own, one of it is, apart from boiling the cassava and eating it with a sauce, the other way they do it is to prepare it and make it into a paste and fry it, and that's called bami. Now, they don't know what is gari, they don't know what is eba or akpu or the likes of it, they don't, but all this we are from cassava, so part of things we try to exchange. They grow yam. I can tell you a very interesting story that we have a famous Nigerian, Professor Asemota, who assisted with her team to remodify the Jamaican yam so that it could grow in a right form for export. And I can tell you today that Jamaica earns some 20-something million US dollars annually for the export of yam alone. So they grow quite a number of yam, but they don't have pounded yam. They don't have yam flour. But they will boil the yam and eat it like that. So these are the kind of similarity. Then, and another thing is breadfruit. For the first time, I saw breadfruit in Jamaica, and I was amazed. Breadfruit is, you can feed a whole family of 5 with just one breadfruit. That's how filling it is. Until my mother came to visit, and she was telling me that growing up in Nigeria, we also used to have breadfruits. But I guess civilization, modernization, we've cut down a lot of our trees and we've lost some of our roots in terms of some of these fruits. And these are the similarities we do have, because our ancestors continued where they went in the journey and continue to have the things. And don't forget Jamaica and jerk. They literally jerk everything. Jerk chicken, jerk pork, even jerk vegetable. And what with the similarity with jerk to us is that it's like saying suya, but not, or probably not suya, balangu. Let me use the word balangu. That's what I will equate jerk chicken with. When we prepare balangu, you go to the suya man, oh, I want to buy a balangu. So the similarity for food is there, but they love our food. Now, we have the same taste bud, by the way. When it comes to spices, we are the same. If there are not enough spice in the food, a Jamaican would not taste. Pepper, the Scotch bonnet pepper, that's atarodu. It's the main thing there. You cannot cook a Jamaican meal without having atarodu in your food, and they like it hot. So they do a lot of sauces, which is different from us. We always prepare ours fresh, but they have a lot of. You can go to the store and buy sauce, different type.
This is where we end the program this week. Remember, your health is in your hands. So keep washing them or using hand sanitizers, and remember to keep them away from your face. The addresses to reach me on are on your screen. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.